Good afternoon, everybody. It's 20 minutes to 1 o'clock in UK, sunny Scotland. The sun's actually out, clear skies. Inside temperature is 22.4 degrees, brought up by this little beauty down here. Keeping me nice and toasty. So, today we are reviewing a Chinese kit that is sold on Amazon for around about £18. Knowing me, I did one or two subtle modifications. There was a problem with it when I got it. One of the S2018s were failing under load, which was the oscillator. So just as a measure, I put in a BC109, which works fine. I was quite happy with the way this worked and the way it tuned up very nicely indeed. And the spec says 400 milliwatts output. It's not quite 400 milliwatts when you run it on 9 volts, but I decided that it would be an idea to run it on a little bit more HT, well, LT. So we've gone to 3 lithium-ion batteries, which were given about 11 volts. But the little TA audio amp chip isn't happy above 9 volts. So basically what I did was I replaced the 33 ohm feed resistor to it with a higher value. I think I fitted 82, and I've zenered it with those two diodes there. I didn't have a 9 volt zener, but you'll notice there's a crystal hung in the back as well. The oscillator's very touchy to set up, I have to say. It's hand capacitance, etc., and it drifts off a bit. So it's not perfect. It would probably be better if it was screened in a box, etc. So just poking the crystal across the oscillator coil, very rough and ready, it actually locks bang on to 1152, which is in fact the frequency of the crystal, as we can see on the DX10 here. Might be better if I put the monitor on. Usually forget to do that. So anyway, it might be easier to see, assuming it's working. There we go. Now once the little sign disappears, once that goes away, there you go. You can see it is absolutely spot on 1152, which is what we want. Now, the method of transmission is the ferrite sleeve antenna. Plenty of drive on this, incidentally, to drive the ferrite sleeve antenna. You don't need to sling up big antennas all over the place and all that kind of stuff. You don't need to do that. This works fine, especially if you want to feed some radios that's quite close by. You also have the big advantage that you don't have hum issues as well. If everything's run off battery, it's fine. Now I'm using an old Prestigio phone as an MP3 player. It's scrap. I don't have a SIM card in it, but it's been lying about for a number of years. The music player on it is actually okay. There's a number of tracks on an SD card, which is feeding into the audio input of this. As I say, run by 3 lithium-ion batteries into that, and we are playing a track again. Yes, the track I was using the other day from Kim Wilde, and it's just to give you an idea of the quality of the audio, etc. Now, if we look at the scope, we're not quite modulating at 100%. It's maybe difficult to see it with the banding, unfortunately, guys. I'm sorry about this. You might see it a wee bit better there. But as I say, it's not quite modulating at 100%. If I turn up the oomph a wee bit, where are we? It's just beginning to show the wee white lines in the middle there on that. So we are approaching 100% modulation. Right, we'll turn up the volume on the DX10, and then we'll show you on some other radios. Now remember, amateur radios, as I've explained before, are not really for this type of work. It's very useful for me for testing and checking the width of the carrier, etc. So it is quite useful. There is another blip that's on the left hand side there. Let me just see if that disappears. If for some reason that is there, it could be a wee harmonic or something. No, it's still there. That must be another station that's there possibly. I don't know. Or maybe a bit of noise. There's quite a lot of noise in this QTH. Let me put it back on again. There you go. So now, as you can see, when it comes back on, it doesn't drift off frequency. It comes straight into lock. So idea is to have this crystal added in. Now, let's put on the Roberts, which is sitting up here. There's a hint of distortion, but looking at the scope, it is over-modulating a wee bit. Back it down a wee bit, just slightly. There we go. Okay, so as we can see, the audio quality is very good. This is incidentally set flat. There's no equalisation on that. It's just a flat output. And here's the wee D808. Okay, now the way it's set up at the moment, the amount of drive and the amount of RF coming off it, we are getting about 150 to 200 milliwatts output. If you adjust the bias for the audio amplifier, you will find you will get 400 milliwatts out of this, right? Quite easily. So I wouldn't call it so much a pantry transmitter because it is a little bit more than that. So unfortunately you have to be extremely wary that you are using a bit more power than possibly you really should be. And if this is discussed on a forum, a lot of the forums don't like it when we talk about pantry transmitters that are putting any more out than microwatts. But this is, don't forget, it's freely available on Amazon, and you can build it and you can use it. So whatever the regulations are regarding that, I don't know. As I say, I've changed it a little bit just to see what this will actually give out. And as I say, it does give out nearly half a watt using about 12 volts. But it works actually quite well. The audio off it is good. It's the little audio chip, the TA chip that's used in here, it's probably not quite up to the task, to be honest, because it can distort. So I've got the drive at the moment set down to minimum. It's right down to minimum, so which gives the best audio fidelity by far. Once you screw that up, you need more drive, and of course this doesn't give that sufficient drive, so you get distortion. So as I say, as it is, it's fine. On 9 volts, it's fine. 9 volts, the RF is a bit less, obviously, so you don't require quite so much drive. But I just wanted to see how far we can go with this, and see how far we can get away with a wee bit more voltage, etc., and so on. But if anybody wants to go down that line and want to go to 12 volts, remember to stabilise the supply to the chip. Stabilise it at about 8.5 volts if you can. A wee bit below the 9 volts is better. Maybe 7.5 would do, but of course with 7.5 you'll get less drive again, less output from it, and you will land into distortion. So at the end of the day, there's not a lot of point going for more power. It's okay to get a little bit of overhead, if you like, a reserve, but it's really not necessary. With 150, 200 milliwatts you'll get out a 9 volt supply. You'll find it's absolutely perfectly adequate. The problem being with your 9 volt, if it's a PP3, your PP3 lasts about an hour, that's it. Because it does draw quite a fair bit of current. It draws about 50 milliamps, so you're not going to get that much life out of it. So you really need to run it from a power supply. As I say, I'm just running on these these are AA-sized lithium ions. The capacity is nothing like what it says on the label. It's probably only about 800 milliamps per hour or something like that, maybe even less than that, to be honest. But it's good for a test. My go-to lithium ions are 18650s, to be honest. But I had this thing and I thought, I'll just try this anyway, just for a test. But the ferrite sleeve antenna is the way to go, by the way. No faffing about with the what do you call it, long wires or making up base loaded antennas and all that. Do it this way, it's easiest. Obviously, okay, the ferrites could be quite expensive to add up to, but if you've got plenty of old ferrites lying about, in fact, you'll get away with one. It'll do fine. You won't get quite so much range, but it'll do fine. But as you can see, if I adjust the tuning, the signal obviously goes up and down quite considerably. A wee bit of hand capacitance effects, which you would expect. So if you've got a cap on it, make sure you're using one with a decent knob on it. It has a pi tank circuit here. On this as well, which is a big plus. The sine wave that comes off here is lovely. Driving that output transistor, incidentally, isn't. But when it comes out of the pi tank, it's perfect. And it's running Class C, but it works fine. Now, the standard heatsink for the audio is mounted incorrectly. It's mounted on the plastic side of the transistor, which is a D882. So I put a different heatsink. That is the one that was actually on it. I put a slightly larger one on it and mounted it the right way around, and it cools it better. I've added this heatsink on it because when you screw it up for more power, it does get, the D882 does get quite a bit warmer. So a small heatsink here. In fact, the one that was on there I put on here, and it's fine. It's plenty of clearance. It clears all the controls, etc. So it works fine. I don't know whether you can see on the scope. I'll adjust the pi tank. Let's see what that does. Now that's me going in. As you can see, the signal's going down. Bring it back out. There you go. It disappears there, as you can see. So that's peaked up. It's no other real way of doing it, to be honest with you. It's not going. You're not going to damage the circuit by being out a wee bit. It's pretty robust. It's going down again and back up. I have to say, I give the Chinese here top marks for this. It's a great wee kit. Audio fidelity is good. The only downside with it, I would say personally, is the fact the tuning is very fussy and it's a bit hand capacitance is a problem, and you can spend ages trying to get it on frequency. It doesn't tend to drift. Once you've done it, you've got it okay. But I've got quite a few crystals that kind of fall in the 9 kilohertz sections of medium wave, so I just bunged an 1152 one in it, and it locks fine. It's solid and it does the job. So there you go. As I say, it's available on Amazon, probably other sources as well. You'll get it maybe on eBay and so on and so forth. But I recommend it if anybody wants to make one and give it a go. But I have to say, it's a nice wee kit. One or two small discrepancies in the diagram, but actually the layout on the kit is correct. Check the resistors before you fit them. They're a bit ineligible. I can't quite make out the colours on it because they're very, very small, but I've got old eyes, so check the resistors in that first. And I did have one that was open, so it's an idea to check that anyway. And as I say, I did have a faulty transistor which was replaced with a BC108. I'll probably fit the right type to it if I find one, but it's working fine with the 109, so I doubt very much if I'll change it. So there we go. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have some fun out of these wee kits. There are other things on the market which I'll probably review in due course as well, and put up what I feel is good or what is bad. But beware, I'll repeat this, beware that these aren't legal. Okay, they are not legal in the UK. We hope that one day they are, but if you're going to use these things for feeding some radios, don't put out too much signal, guys. Don't, because I'm not saying that you're going to get caught. It's highly, highly, highly unlikely, but technically you are against the Wireless Telegraphy Act, so remember that and be aware of that. Okay, but as I say, if you're not interfering with anybody, you're not causing anybody disruption, etc., etc. I don't think you'll have much trouble. But as I say, go down this road, or go down a road where you know your signal is not going to go for hundreds of yards, because with this it will do. If you're using anything like an efficient antenna, it will go hundreds of yards and possibly more. So just beware of that, guys. So that is my warning to you. And especially if you hold a license, etc., you are breaking the rules of your license if you get this out and about. So it's okay for what you're doing in a very small area like in here to feed a few radios. It's absolutely fine. There's no problems with that at all. But one of the reasons why I did do this review on this transmitter is simply because I want to find out if it's too strong for a day-to-day use, which it could well be if you decide to put up an efficient antenna. So my advice, don't put up an efficient antenna. Let it work away with something like this, or a short piece of wire, which it will do quite happily, and so on. But again, like I say, what was one of the reasons why I decided to put more power on it, because I know there's people out there like me that will experiment, etc., etc. So it's just to give you the warnings of that. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Take care. And obviously, in the countries that you can use it, I believe it's quite legal in the Netherlands. Go for it. Use it because it works very, very, very well. Okay, take care. Bye now.